What is destiny? Absolute law of karma by Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. Abstract. Strange are the ways of life. We so often see instances where virtuous persons suffer endlessly while sinners lead pleasurable lives. Indolents achieve success while hardworking persons fail repeatedly. The wise face adversity while fools live in prosperity. The egoists are held in high esteem while the righteous suffer contempt. The established human norms for achieving happiness and success do not always appear to hold good in practical terms. This book is an eye opener for all as it gives very logical explanation of the relationship between human deeds and destiny. It lucidly explains in scientific light the fundamental law of karma, the secrets behind the fortune and misfortune, the mystery behind the collective suffering of large number of people at the same time and place, the three types of agonies man is afflicted with, and their cause and effect relationship, the method by which each one of our actions is recorded, and how results of our actions affect us later on has been very scientifically explained in an interesting way. The content runs into 10 chapters. Chapter 1. What is fate? Who regulates it? Most of us are generally curious to know our future. As rational beings, we feel that it is by and large determined by our efforts but still can't create or predict it. Some of us may consider the uncertainty to be governed by some unknown random law of nature or Murphy's Law. Whatever be the case, the word fate or destiny is very much a part of our natural inquisitiveness to know why different people have different fates, or why people born in the same family, brought up in the same environment, having the same qualifications and talents, end up getting drastically different destinies in their professional and social lives. To a varied extent, we do feel concerned about our stars, horoscope, palm maps, cards, etc., that are commonly regarded as indicators of fate. So, let us examine what this fate is. Para ends. The Indian mythology states that Chitragupta maintains the records of our karma which shapes our future destiny. But who is Chitragupta? Is it another name of God, or does it refer to a superhuman, angel, or is it simply an allegory? Parents. The number of human beings inhabiting this earth itself is in several billions. If we take into account the other living beings of millions of non human species, the total number would be beyond mathematical calculation. It would be an impossible task for an individual being, howsoever superbly evolved, to work day and night without rest for millions of years, maintaining records of each moment of life of innumerable beings of the cosmos. Impracticability of maintenance of such a stupendous record puts a question mark on the very existence of Chitragupta. Modern science, however, substantiates the reality underlining the metaphorical descriptions given in the scriptures. Para ends. Science has now established that all mental, verbal, physical activities carried out by an individual having a discriminative mind leave subtle impressions on the deeper levels of the psyche. In this way, like the compressed audio visual recordings of the events on a microchip of the computer or compact disk, all good and evil deeds are being recorded in the hidden chambers of the subconscious mind. This record, like that of an ultra compact disk, remains in storage till it is required to be processed at a desired moment through an appropriate mechanism. Para ends. In Indian science of spirituality, karma stands for any physical, verbal, mental, or social activity. Because of the evolved state of human consciousness, each karma automatically and instantaneously generates a subtle mental imprint. These imprints cannot be erased before the karma results in the consequent effect or karma phal at the appropriate time in this life or in any future life in any form. Para ends. The scriptures also describe that the Supreme Creator, Lord Brahma, inscribes the destiny on the forehead of a human being, and this divine inscription cannot be erased by anyone. Let us examine this concept from a scientific point of view. Studies based on sophisticated mapping of brain activities by functional MRI, etc., they show innumerable furrows in the gray matter all over the brain. Medical science has not so far fully deciphered the biological implications of these indentations. Comparative studies of different subjects have shown that the destiny of these crenulations in the gray matter of the highly evolved persons and thinkers is much more than in the case of common masses. It shows that these microscopic lines in the gray matter of the brain are nothing but compact subtle impressions created by external activities. This finding supports the possibility of imprints of mental, vocal, and physical actions. Para ends. The record of activities, good and evil deeds, on the neuronal memory chips proves the existence of an adept, intelligent mechanism which Hindu mythology refers to as Chitragupta. Linguistically, the Sanskrit word Chitragupta means a hidden picture. This refers to our inner mind, the unconscious mind, or more precisely, the chitta. That is, the impressions recorded on chitta could be understood in simple terms by automatic backup storage in the CPU of all the programs executed on a computer. Para ends. As per the deeper science of spirituality, human consciousness works at four subtle processes or cores of consciousness, namely the first one, the manas, conscious mind, second one, buddhi, intellect, third one, chitta, or the conscious and the unconscious mind, the core of intrinsic tendencies, and the fourth one, ahankara, the sense of self-identity. These collectively define an individual self or jivatma and are carried forward with the subtle body life after life. The subtle imprints on the hidden register of chitta, hence the chitta or Chitragupta, control the future course of life. Para ends. It is a scientifically established fact that the active part of the human brain, which is only a tiny fraction of its total capacity, that is 7% in case of the most trenchant, most intelligent, and most active mind, itself has an infinite potential for storage and processing of information. It has also been affirmed that the subconscious mind and the unconscious minds control the continuous functioning of the brain. Thus, there is no doubt about the limitless capacities of the unconscious mind. So, the Chitragupta refer to the Vedic text is indeed ageless and limitless superconscious, which continuously maintains the records of every action, every thought, every feeling of individual beings. Para ends. Subheading: How do records of deeds account for fate? The self-regulated mechanism of the eternal consciousness force keeps a continuous micro-record of our deeds in a subtle form as mental inscriptions. Upon death, these shorthand notes or in the subconscious layers of the chitta, they serve the purpose of testimony or for objective evaluation of the total span of our present life. Para ends. As we all know, the human mind works at two levels, one external and the other internal. The outer mind, which we experience all the time except while in the state of sound sleep, is analytical. It analyzes the pros and cons, accepts and discards, infers, aspires as per the urges of the senses, and is driven by the extrovert tendencies. It takes decisions with the help of intellect but frequently changes its resolutions. The inner mind, on the other hand, is like an innocent but resolute child. It neither accepts nor discards anything, but as a true faithful representative of the divine, functions impartially towards the divine justice. Para ends. The external mind may think of escaping punishment by suppressing or overlooking the recordings of the lines of evil deeds and highlight only the virtuous deeds for reward. The inner mind or the conscience is one of its constituents. On the other hand, works differently. It takes decisions like an unbiased judge of highest integrity who cannot be influenced by allurement, fear, or any vested interest. It is said that in each human being there coexists a saint and a devil. You may consider the sublime inner mind as a representative of divinity and the external mind which is ever engaged in reasoning rationalizing, deliberating, conspiring, and hypocrisy as a tool of the devil. The external mind may deceive the soul by justifying each and every action of a person. Para ends. The inner mind, on contrary, is the flame of the soul and a projection of the absolute truth. It is therefore incapable of conceit and deceit and is innately calm and detached. That is why God has entrusted it with such crucial responsibility. For the common man, it is the deity Chitragupta. Being absolutely impartial, this deity has been given the highest seat of divine judge. Like a secret service agent, this deity is all the time vigilantly shadowing a person and recording his actions in its secret diary. Para ends. In human society, there are two departments for punishing the violators of law, namely the police and the judiciary. The police arrests the accused, collects the evidence, and presents these before the judicial court. Thereafter, the process of justice takes over. The judge delivers the judgment after considering all aspects of the offense and related circumstances. Depending on the circumstantial evidence, individuals are handed down varied sentences for the same type of offense. Para ends. Let us consider an example. Three persons are accused of killing a person. Because of different circumstances associated with the crime, one is set free, the second person is sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment, and the third is sent to the electric chair. The person who was released was a mason. While working at an elevator level, he had accidentally dropped a brick which killed a passerby. The presiding judge found that the brick was dropped accidentally and unintentionally without an ulterior motive. Hence, the accused was released without punishment. The second accused was a farmer. Finding a thief stealing his crop, he had given him a fatal blow, killing the offender. Taking into consideration the circumstances which prompted the offense, the judge surmised that though it was natural for the farmer to show his anger towards someone stealing his property, nevertheless, since he had overreacted to a small offense, a sentence of 5 years' imprisonment was appropriate. The third person was a notorious robber who had robbed a rich man and intentionally killed him in the process. In this way, the worldly court of justice pronounces judgment after minutely examining all circumstantial evidences. Para ends. In the inner mind, the coded notes of Chitragupta discharge the dual responsibility of God's police and court of justice. In the material world, if the prosecutor presents inadequate or false evidence, the judgment of the court is likely to be flawed. But in the inner occult world, there is absolutely no possibility of such miscarriage of justice. The inmost mind, being the direct and the transparent witness to all physical as well as mental activities of a person, is fully aware of the intentions, motives, and circumstances of each and every action. Being fully aware, it does not require the testimony of the external mind or intellect to arrive at a conclusion. Para ends. In divine justice, the gravity of a sin or a vice or merit of a virtue is decided on the basis of the motive and the degree of emotional involvement with the deed. Whereas in the material world, objects are measured materially on the basis of their mundane worth. This measure is irrelevant for dispensing divine justice. The material world may ignore a poor donor of 10 cents and admire a person donating $10,000, but in divine jurisprudence, the worth of such acts of altruism will not be assessed on this gross physical basis. Para ends. Let us take an example. In a remote, undeveloped tribal area, one may barter a kilogram of food grains for sugar, but in a developed country, one has to pay in hard currency. In the material world, people do earn fame and name by making large contributions to the charity, helping in popular welfare activities, joining religious or charitable institutions, delivering or listening to sermons, and participating in pilgrimages. But the domain of Chitragupta does not accept this currency. The ledgers of this domain record only debits and credits of motives and emotional involvements in the performance of deeds and convert these into virtues and sins accordingly. Para ends. Upon being exhorted by his divine teacher, Lord Krishna, Arjuna got millions killed in the war of Mahabharata. the Great Armageddon, during which the entire battlefield became littered with corpses, took place because Arjuna agreed to take part in the war. In this way, Arjuna could not have been considered a great sinner, but Chitragupta gave credit to his motive for waging the Mahabharata war. Arjuna's intentions were pious. He had fought only to re establish the supreme moral order or Dharmastapana. Chitragupta's ledger did not take into account the slain bodies of the soldiers. Physical objects have no relevance in the invisible realm. Chitragupta simply ignored the number of toys of flesh and bones destroyed during the war. Para ends. Does a king bother about the number of toys broken or the number of grains spilled? In this world, billionaires are held in high regard, but in the realm of God, they are paupers and non entities. On the other hand, a poor man of this world, if he is kind hearted, could be counted in his realm among us the King of Kings. Whatever a man does, only his motives, good or bad, are recorded in the corresponding account of Chitragupta. A public executioner who, in course of duty, hangs a person condemned to death without any malice could be considered a virtuous person by Chitragupta, whereas a priest who meticulously follows the rituals but is secretly engaged in corrupt practices will be labeled as a sinner. Para ends. In the realm of the Lord of divine law, Dharmaraj, the decorations of the exterior would have no values. There only the interior worth is evaluated. It hardly matters whether externally an action of a person appears good or bad. The determining factor is the interior or emotional input. The roots of vices and virtues unquestionably lie in the intentions, in the nature and intensity of the intrinsic tendencies, the motives, the desires, and not in the external deeds. Para ends. To understand that the type and the intensity of motive is directly proportional to the gravity or greatness of the sin or virtue, respectively. Take the example of two individuals nursing a sick person. Apparently, both are engaged in the same service, but whereas one is doing it indifferently, the other one serves with tenderness, sympathy, large heartedness, and love. Here, in spite of apparently identical service, the measure of virtue will depend on the quality of emotional involvement and love. Similarly, among us two thieves, one of which is compelled to steal because of starvation and the other steals for acquiring drugs, the sin will undoubtedly be considered greater in the later case. Para ends. In the foregoing paragraphs, we have discussed how Chitragupta, a component of our own inner self, impartially records our good and bad deeds on the submicroscopic elements of our inner conscience, and that this subtle recording is popularly known as the lines of fate or karma rekha. We have also understood the process of divine justice does not regard an act as sinful or virtuous by the external appearance of the activity, but on the basis of the quality of the motive of the doer. In God's jurisprudence, there is significant clause for treating each individual independently according to the state of purity of the soul. Para ends. The laws of universal conscience hold good that each soul is perpetually in the process of progressive evolution, that is, purification, through the course of successive cycles of birth and death. That is, at each successive stage, the soul acquires greater purity and is given a body in the species of higher consciousness or wisdom. Being born as a human being is regarded as the most precious gift of evolution of consciousness, as this is the only life form where the individual self gets a chance with full liberty to do good or bad karmas and accordingly write his her destiny. Human life alone offers the chance for liberation from the cycles of birth and death. It is up to us how we, the architects of our own destinies, make use of this invaluable opportunity. Para ends, and also the chapter ends, and also the